We've previously talked about things like the limbic system, okay? And this limbic system is this little part of your brain. I have it highlighted in green on this slide over here. It's that part of your brain right there, basically, and certain things happen when you are triggered in a certain way. And there are certain times when they should happen. If you're walking outside and you suddenly encounter a wild animal, yeah, you're probably going to go into fight or flight mode, okay? But when you feel yourself going into fight or flight mode, when there's no physical danger around, what that indicates is that something is being challenged which you emotionally identify with. So if I emotionally identify with being a Baptist, and then somebody is competently denigrating what it means to be a Baptist, my body starts reacting as if part of me is dying, as if part of me is being threatened, like somebody's going to cut off a limb or something, because I have extended your cognition. 4E cognition can be extended into different tools. When you hit somebody with your car, you say, I hit them. Well, your car hit them, but you see it as an extension of yourself. When you're holding a hammer, you see it as an extension of yourself. It actually acts like an extension of your arm. A car, you kind of get used to exactly where the corners and bumpers are and how close you can cut it before you're going to hit something else when you're turning tight corners and that sort of thing, because your cognition is extended. And your cognition can be extended into distributed cognition and into collective intelligence. And your cognition can be distributed into ideology, into fake things like ideology, okay? Can be extended into here, your embodied sense of embodied cognition. So when somebody comes along to cut this off and talk about how dumb and stupid Wayne Grudem is, your body, because you identify with that and you have extended your embodied cognition into that set of ideas, your body starts to undergo the same internal reactions as if perhaps you were actually going to lose a limb from a shark bite. Okay? Your body doesn't know the difference between real mortal danger and identity danger in some cases. So when you feel your body acting up, when you're not in any physical danger, that is a sign to you that you are emotionally identified with something that is in fact not you. And that is something that you would need to learn to realize that is not you and let go of it and no longer identify with it. Stop identifying with things that aren't you. Learn what they are. Learn all the things that are not you. What are the things that are not me? Nothing is you. So the limbic system, when it's challenged, it'll put us in fight or flight mode, or that's also what's responsible for feeding, feeling, flirting, and mating. Put flirting in there. Sometimes there's some other F words that are substituted in there depending on what list you look at, but you get the idea. Freezing, fawning. And so fighting is obvious. You want to take your stand. It's time to fight. Flight or flee is to run away. All right, your limbic system triggers this. Or feeding, when you're hungry and you want to eat, your limbic system is involved with that. When you're feeling emotions, anger, sadness, joy, your limbic system is involved with some of those. When you have impulses for flirting or mating, your limbic system is involved with those as well. Freezing is when somebody is so scared that they just don't know what to do and they just freeze. John says, if you're triggered, identify the thing that is valued. And that's a really good tip. It's a really good homework thing, is when you start to feel that triggering happen, you start to feel that anxiety rise inside you, think about what it is that you are emotionally identified with, that you value, that is being called into question. And that is an indicator of what needs to be let go for you to become who you really are. Because you have to have a series of ego deaths to become who you really are. And it's a lot easier, trust me, it's a lot easier to have ego deaths that you self-impose by careful self-examination. Examine yourself to see whether you be in the faith. See how that verse means something so much different now? Faith is a verb. It's a really good tip. It's a lot easier to have an ego death this way than for circumstances, the universe, God, or whatever you want to attribute it to forcefully force you into an ego death by removing something not of your choosing or realization. And then you're fighting resentment. At the same time, you're having to realize what you need to let go of. Just makes it more difficult. Freezing is when people are afraid and they go into paralysis mode, or fawning when you sense you're in some kind of danger and you just fawn all over the source of the danger in hopes that they will like you. People with histrionic personality disorder do this a lot. I actually saw an example of this on TV. My wife and I watched some, she calls it her junk TV, some of these reality dating shows, and you see different couples when there's a tough and challenging situation. Instead of dealing with the problem, some people, instead of dealing with the problem, start attacking each other. Some people, instead of dealing with the problem, they automatically start trying to appeal to each other, like either sexually or some other way, something like that, to try to tame the beast, but still without actually addressing the issue that's at hand. The reason people have to go through so much combat training is because once you get triggered, you're basically a talking monkey. You are. You're basically in your animal space of your brain. And you're basically a talking monkey. So all the executive functions, notice that little red blockout area. I have that over the prefrontal cortex, which controls the higher level thought, problem solving, and the executive functions of the brain. That goes out the window as soon as you're triggered. So it could be triggered in combat. Like, that's a legitimate time to be triggered because it's really life or death. There's really physical danger there. All right. So it's probably not a sign that you're carnal if you're in a firefight. If you're a police officer and you're in a firefight and your adrenaline's pumping, your anxiety is high, that's perfectly natural. It's exactly what that system in your body is for. Okay. But the problem is decisions really matter. Okay. So when people are training for combat or training to possibly be in firefights, they have to train to turn a lot of these things into muscle memories, because once the real bullets start flying in a real scenario, all those executive functions of the brain shut down. They're no longer there. All the reasoning that you have, all the rules of engagement, all that stuff goes out the window, and you can't think like that anymore. So you have to have it trained into you by repetition so it gets down into the part of your brain that's going to be active during that time, your limbic system. That's why they train. When I was in training in the Army, they would have us low crawling across fields, going in the mud and through barbed wire and all this, while they have live rounds going off around us so you could see what it feels like, so you could, as much as is possible while still being safe, feel the danger being close to you while you're still having to perform and operate. So that's what happens. And the same thing happens. A couple may get into a heated argument, and the same thing happens. The parts of their brain that they need, as soon as you get triggered, the parts of your brain, and that's one of the reasons you really want to work on this internal thing. So you might be controlling yourself externally, but internally, the degree to which your anxiety has risen through all those systems in your body is the degree to which your prefrontal cortex is no longer available to you. So you might be able to look calm on the outside, but you're just as stupid as a monkey, because it's still your limbic system that's like really pumping away in there, and not your prefrontal cortex. So you're not going to be able to make as much good sense, employ logic as well. You see, those kinds of things, you're going to be basically impaired in some of those areas, even if you're able to remain calm on the outside. So you want to really embody that calmness on the inside, to make it a reality on the inside, so that the higher level executive functions of the prefrontal cortex are still available to you when you're in a challenging situation. This happens all the time in theological debates too. So something that's connected to the limbic system is also the vagus nerve, and I highly recommend that you look up polyvagal theory. Some people think, oh, it's theory, it doesn't mean it's a hard science. No, it's a hard science. And you can actually learn to regulate. When you feel your vagus nerve acting up, you see how far down this vagus nerve goes? See this yellow, this sets of yellow nerves that go down into the chest and they go down all the way into the stomach. When you get butterflies in your stomach when you're nervous, that's the vagus nerve. That's how far down it goes. It's connected to your limbic system. When your heart hurts after you broke up with somebody, that's the vagus nerve. It's connected to your limbic system. When somebody dies and you just feel like physical pain in your chest, that's the vagus nerve acting up. It's connected to your limbic system. So understanding how the vagus nerve works, you can actually regulate it. You can actually breathe on the spot. And oh, my vagus. So as soon as you go into fight or flight mode, you cannot remain open. And if you're in a situation where you need to remain open, it's like, say you're trying to have a calm, collected conversation with somebody, like a church member or a spouse or a kid or whatever, or you're in court, okay? When you feel that vagus nerve acting up, it helps to know that, oh, I know this is my vagus nerve acting up. I know that it's prompting me to go into fight or flight mode. I also know that I'm going to be no better than a talking ape once that happens, and my executive thought functions are not going to be available to me, which is not a good thing to happen in those situations. And so I need to calm back down and get back to open. And there are certain things, little techniques people have learned, like taking deep breaths while you know this, especially breathing out the nose, in and out the nose. It's helpful. And they actually say, and I would not try this in public. Like if I'm actually sitting in a courtroom, I would not try this. But if you're by yourself, if you hum through your nose, so you feel it vibrate in your nose, that actually helps calm down vagus nerve activation more rapidly. Okay, just little tips and tricks about how your body works and how you can help get yourself back into an open mindset, so you can have a discussion without being, because you can't be open and in fight or flight mode. You can be one or the other. It's like a trigger. It's a switch that goes one way or the other. Cannot be in both.